and welcome to Perspectives on Equity, hosted by Capital One. I'm your host, Black Enterprise reporter Ashante Hathaway. Perspectives on Equity is a new video series focused on Black influence in the workplace. Each episode will feature the personal and professional experiences of Black executives sharing stories of how they're advancing their careers and driving innovation. In our first episode, Equity versus Equality, we'll be joined by Capital One Associates Valerie Jeffries, the Director of Enterprise Diversity Recruiting, and Lula Adem, a process manager for the Card Tech Architecture team. They're here to tell us how equity and equality relate to workplace culture through their own experience. Well, thank you, ladies, Valerie and Lula, for joining us. I want to start off with a quick question about what is your role at Capital One for the both of you?
Val, should I start or do you want to start?
Sure, Lula, feel free.
My role right now is a process manager with the Card Tech Architecture team. Those are a lot of words, but essentially what I do is create and maintain processes for this team. So that is anything from onboarding new employees to coming up with new processes for managing our architecture role. So that's my current role at Capital One.
Okay.
Yeah, and I see my role as one that truly fuels my mission-driven personality. So I think it's fundamentally important work. I am in the recruiting function, and I lead teams of people who are responsible for finding talented people and bringing them to Capital One and giving them a chance to have a conversation with a hiring manager. So a main component of my role also is really specifically about attracting underrepresented talent. So we're looking to measurably build a more diverse workforce, and that directly impacts Capital One's future success.
Awesome. So talking about that, what about this work, Lula, drives your passion for equity and tying it back to Capital One's mission to change banking for good?
Yes, great question. So in my main role, I'm a process manager, but I have many other roles within diversity, inclusion, and belonging, what we call DIB at Capital One. And through those roles, as well as my main role, I really try to implore different perspectives for all the things that I do. So for my main role as a process manager, that really involves making things more efficient for our team. And that really takes understanding what the needs of the team are. So to change banking for good, right? My customers are my internal team, and they are creating architectural diagrams to make sure the software platforms are all working for our customers. So that also entails me really understanding what their needs are and bringing them to the table when I'm coming up with these processes, because I can't do those in a vacuum. So it really involves me making sure that I am including my team members, just even beyond what their roles are, but creating processes for them to make sure that they are managing and functioning so they can create better software for our customers. And then through my work in diversity, inclusion, and belonging, I am really focused on allyship and really creating roles for or educating people on how to really be the allies that we need in the workplace. And I'm also on the communications team for Blacks in Tech. That is a business resource group within Capital One. And with that, I also, spread the word around what Blacks in Tech, the mission of Blacks in Tech, and how that mission also creates changing banking for good.
Interesting. So Lula, I had another question. In your opinion, though, what is the difference between equity and equality?
So I've thought a lot about this. And so I want to frame this answer within the workplace, right? So right now we are in the throes, and Valerie knows this, we're in the throes of open enrollment, right? So we're picking what our insurance plans will be. And I think this is a great example of the difference between equity and equality. So equality is giving the same resources and being very fair around giving the same exact resources to a set of individuals. Equity is really understanding the specific needs of those individuals and tailoring the resources to their needs. So for example, at Capital One and at many employers, everyone gets insurance. So that's an example of equality. everyone gets insurance, but you have to pick out your individualized plans. And that's equity, because everyone doesn't have the same healthcare needs. So that is the difference. Is really, one is providing the same resource for everyone, and then that's equality. And equity is providing resources really based on the individual need of that person or group.
Wow. I had another question for you, and it has to do with, what is Capital One's culture of belonging, you would say?
So there is a technical definition, which I don't have in front of me, but I'm going to talk from my perspective. Belonging is really letting people be their authentic selves, and letting them be seen and heard, and valuing their opinion. So in short, I like to think belonging is like really making people feel appreciated. So at Capital One, it's so important that we've added that as a core item to our diversity and inclusion. So belonging is just as important as diversity and inclusions. And it's really around understanding the differences and letting people feel like they're a part of the group, like they belong at Capital One, regardless of what creed or race or sexual orientation. You belong at Capital One. Your voice is important. We need that voice. It is how we remain competitive. And that's really what belonging is.
Valerie, I want to bring you in, and I want to ask you, what about Capital One's culture resonates with you as a Black associate?
Yeah, look, I'm actually an extroverted introvert, which is a little unusual, right? I think it's called an ambivert. And I'm generally, throughout my career, been really private about my personal life and my beliefs and opinions. And really what's resonated with me is that even though I've always been friendly and very, very approachable, I've always been about business. And really the effort was to try to survive at the companies I was at before. And so what Capital One has really brought me to realize is that even in this stage of my career, I can have my authentic self. And that authentic self, actually, I'm still figuring it out, because I've kind of masked for so many years. It sounds ridiculous, but managed impressions, and that I feel like I have to really grasp, like, what part of myself do I want to bring to the office? And I've been limiting people's abilities to know me, essentially, and to interact with me. Mm-hmm. And so I've just come to realize that I can open up, think about my truth, share my hopes and opinions. And sometimes people don't feel the same way as me. Sometimes when I put my voice in the room, they have a dissenting opinion, or it sparks conversation. And I appreciate this culture that even if the decision's different than what I want, or the conversation takes a different direction, that at least my voice was heard and I'm valued and seen. And as a leader, I've also in turn been doing that for my team. So I always look around the room and I look for people either like me or even different than me. So like me might be an introvert who's not as open to share, that's going to kind of be a little bit private in their thoughts, or perhaps process. I'm a processor, right? I need a moment to think about what I think and what I feel and whether or not I want to share that. And I see that in other people, and I'm really prone to bringing them in and asking them for their perspective, whether it's in the room literally or asking them to share perhaps in a different forum. So it's all about encouraging people to have a voice. And I think that that's an important piece of belonging.
And you talked about perspectives, and I wanted to ask you, how do diverse perspectives, specifically from underrepresented groups, come to life through day-to-day work at Capital One?
Yeah, well, so we know that through research, diverse perspectives are important, or at least I know that. And specifically having underrepresented groups of people within our organization helps us think dynamically and execute in a creative way. So for me, I believe our life experiences, those from underrepresented groups, the life experiences and perspectives are ones that helps Capital One progress. For example, Lula and I, we haven't had an opportunity to speak to an external market before, but I think that the company's doing an even better job of pulling in voices from different associates, not what we might call the token, same people over and over, but different voices. She and I hadn't met before this interaction. And so we started talking and we realized just how much we have in common and how much we're actually different, and that our voices are cared for by the company. And that matters. So I think in a day-to-day world, even though we don't have the same job and we don't necessarily have the same experiences and same perspectives, Capital One is really open about pulling in different voices like ours and giving us an opportunity to share.
And I wanted to get this question for both of you guys. How do you leverage, you would say, your role to empower others to embrace a culture of belonging at Capital One?
Mm-hmm.
So I really like to model the behavior that I want to see. So through my roles, through the multiple roles, belonging really starts with getting to know people and talking. I think a lot of times we make things a little more complicated than they have to be, but I really try to get to know my team members on a personal level, like find out what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what makes them really happy, especially with work. I think because a lot of my work is around communications, I really am looking to my team members to tell me how my messages are resonating. So I include them in my review processes. I do peer reviews all the time. And I also include them in when I'm even thinking about an idea. At Capital One, we have something called empathy interviews, where before we even start working on something, we kind of interview the stakeholders, see what they really need. So it's really about getting to know people. And through that, you build trust, and then you can ask them to be included in your work products. I really think it matters to talk to people, get to know them on a human basis, and just really getting to know how their mind works. And then through that, you can find out how they can best serve you in the products or the things that you're developing for your team. And I think that's really kind of the key for me, really getting to know people and being empathetic. And that comes from really talking to people and getting to know them on a more personal level. I mean, we spend so much time with people at work. And so why not get to know them and understand them on a deeper level? And then all of the other stuff kind of falls into play in terms of belonging for me.
Valerie, you want to add to that at all?
I do. Actually, Lula, have you heard the term seek the wisdom of the crowd? That's a Capital One term.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
And so that's very much something that's really part of our culture, which is the phrase seek the wisdom of the crowd. It's really bringing in other perspectives. We all tend to, or at least I can speak for myself, I tend to like to know the answer. And what Capital One really encourages us to maybe ask great questions, right? So it's not a measure of success is really liberating to me in my belonging, in that I don't have to know everything. I can actually ask and get input from others and actually iterate and make mistakes and learn from them. And so it's just been really helpful to seek the wisdom of the crowd.
We talked about belonging. We're going to talk a little bit about culture. What about Capital One's culture you would say is most attractive to job seekers, especially compared to other Fortune 100 companies? And this is kind of what you guys can answer.
Oh, okay. I think it's what Valerie just stated, right? Seeking the knowledge of the crowd. I think Capital One is a very consensus-driven company, right? We really seek to understand when we're trying to figure out a problem. We try to look at it from a ton of different angles, and that only happens with belonging and including people. Capital One historically has been a disruptor in the marketplace. It started, it got really big as a credit card company, but now we're a technology company that does banking. And I think even that trajectory is very attractive to candidates. It's somewhere that you can make mistakes. Mistakes are welcome, because through mistakes, you innovate. And it's always kind of been a company that, it has an entrepreneurial spirit that way. And I think that's very attractive, because even if you hear Capital One in technology or in financial tech, fintech, it's a leader there. And that only comes from disruption and innovation. And that only comes from diverse opinions and thoughts. And so I think that's what makes it attractive as an employer.
Yeah, and I might add, from a recruiting lens, what we see is candidates like, and it may seem shallow, at least I think people tend to like the fact that they can dress and be themselves every day. So I know I have on my pearls today, but generally speaking, when we're in non-COVID times, you come into the office and people have on their Vans and their, I don't know, jeans, and some are dressed in their, I don't know, Sunday best. But it's really about how someone else feels comfortable, how you feel comfortable, and bringing that self to our four walls and expressing yourself through dress and through whatever you'd like to see. We can see that in the office, and I like that. I know my daughter, we have 2 adult children, and our daughter just started her first professional job after graduating college in May. And so she started her company, and her first day she did have to go in the office, and she was dressed like, I think like she was going to her funeral. And I was like, oh, honey, I think you can put on, sandals or something. And she was like, no, Mom, I can't wear open toe. And I realized just how much my perspective has changed since joining Capital One, because we are really open to, there's no uniform essentially. You can bring yourself in the best way that you see fit. Lula, does that resonate with you too?
Oh, I really wanted to add a story, a personal story.
Yeah.
My hair is very plain now. And in terms of plain, I mean color wise. But when I first joined Capital One, I came I had the attitude similar to your daughter, because I came from management consulting. So it was very buttoned up, like gray, blue, black were the colors. So you could not go outside of that.
Buttoned up.
Then I went to orientation in our Richmond campus, and I saw a guy with a blue and like royal blue mohawk. And I said to myself, I've always wanted to try different colors and try different styles. I'm very creative in how I dress, but I always toned it down for work. And I saw that and said, oh, this is the company that is for me. And I started wearing my hair tons of different colors. I've had everything from blue, purple, green. My team used to always they had bets on what color my hair would be. And I can't tell you how much that increased my confidence at work, because I was able to be my authentic self at work, and no one batted an eye. They appreciated it. And I think that's what made me really thrive at this company. It's because I could come as I am in all the colors that is, and still be seen as a professional, and my value wasn't diminished based on that. Matter of fact, I think people were really, they liked it. They liked that I came and added some color to the team. So I just really want to echo that. And I think that's really attractive as well. And I think that's still disruption, right? That's not all of corporate America. I think that's a very unique thing about Capital One, especially being in the financial institution. I think that's very unique.
Okay, Valerie, I had another question for you. And it has to do with, how have you seen Capital One adapt processes or policies to continuously build on equitable associate culture in a way that keeps our culture authentic and relevant and attractive to candidates?
That's a really great question. Some of our stated values are excellence and doing the right thing, and how that translates in processes and policies for an equitable culture is definitely a challenge. And I'm imagining it's not easy work for any company. So really the questions are how to create fairness, how to stretch and innovate, perhaps how do we pivot from the ways that we've done things in the past, and then also how to articulate these changes in a clear way to people who maybe think that change isn't necessary. And I think just in my short 3 years here, Capital One's increasingly doing a good job of asking for input. I know Lulu mentioned that earlier, asking for input from our employees and truly caring about the feedback to build better benefits that are attractive and effective and, to your point, equitable. I've seen continual improvements in some of our business practices specific to our employees and customers. And I know in HR specifically, we've made modifications to our talent and selection systems. We've proactively elevated some of our pay practices, and we're paying underrepresented groups 100% of what non-minorities are being paid. And that's something that started, I believe 3 or 4 years ago. The company made an effort to look at the parity across the company and ensure that there was, in fact, equitable practices. We've also launched development programs that invest in growing the careers of our Black associates. internally. We've expanded our focus on building representation across the spectrum. So one of my peers, she works with HBCUs and HSIs. I'm working on the other end of the spectrum with senior leaders, looking to grow and expand our senior leadership from a Black and Latinx perspective. So the work's not done, and that's why it's important to have a variety of voices, diverse people like myself, Lula, and others at the table to represent the views that historically may not have been available, so that we can make enhancements to our policies and practices.
This has been an awesome conversation that we've had. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to say anything else that we sort of haven't covered for the day.
Yeah.
Well, I just like to thank Black Enterprise and thank this partnership. I think this is an example of belonging and being inclusive. I grew up on Black Enterprise, and never in a million years would I think I would be doing a podcast, and that wouldn't have happened if I was not at Capital One at this time. So I just want to say that we are a true example of belonging and the kind of thing that I think will push companies forward. And I appreciate you, Ashante, for interviewing us today, and Valerie for being my colleague and cohort in this. I really appreciate everyone and all the time and energy to put into this. And I hope that people find this valuable and look forward to more opportunities like this to spread the word about diversity, inclusion, belonging, and how we can push that agenda forward.
I'd like to say, as a woman who fits into several identity groups, I'm a Black woman, veteran of a certain age, I'm over 45, that I really appreciate the opportunity to continue to grow and stretch, expand, build my knowledge, contribute, that my voice is cared for and valued at a company as Capital One, and that I belong. And I appreciate the opportunity today through Black Enterprise to have a chance to speak to you today. Very much appreciated.
Okay, well, thank you ladies once again so much for joining us. We look forward to having more conversations about Capital One in our next episode. Thanks again.